Hello. I was just reading a magazine there about some teenagers, and I was thinking how different teenagers are today to the way I was when I was a teenager. My memory took me back to when I was about 14, 15. I lived in Worthing in Sussex, seaside town. A nice place to live. Um, it was especially nice in the summer. We seemed to get a lot of sun that we don't get nowadays. Maybe that's only a mind playing tricks, and maybe it was because we were probably more carefree in those days. But Worthing was good for at least one other reason, and probably two other reasons. During the summer, we had a lot of young ladies, young girls. They came over from France, exchange students, and we'd us young fellas, we'd heard all about the French women. We'd heard all about the French films that we weren't allowed to see their 18 certificate, or for adults only. Um, we'd heard the stories about the French films. Maybe they weren't true what we heard. Maybe there was exaggerations, but we believed it. Um, Worthing also had a pier. It's still got a pier. But it's a nice pier. I liked it. And on the pier there was this telescope. Oh, great big metal thing. And you put a penny in the slot, and a shutter opened at the front, and you could look at boats or buildings, a dome cinema or something. You could see across to Brighton. Uh, Pardon me. And then at the end of the time, the shutter closed again, and that was it. Now, we thought this telescope was a great thing, but there was a bit of skill to it. To get your full penny's worth, there were little sights on the top of this telescope, and you aimed it on the building or the place or the boat that you wanted to see, and then put your penny in. It opened up, and it was on that target, and you got your fool's penny's worth. Now, the young girls from France I mentioned used to sunbathe on the beach every day. Yes, but they were different to the other visitors we got, the local girls. The French girls sunbathed topless. Now, at 14 in those days, we hadn't seen anything topless. Our imagination had worked wonders, but this was something new, and we got our full penny's worth through this telescope. It was probably 2 or 3 days later, and I'm sitting with my mates in the ICP, the ice cream parlour, where we met every evening and bought a cup of coffee and could smoke a cigarette. In those days, you could smoke your coffee. I listened to the jukebox. I suppose it was Johnny Ray and Frankie Lane, Guy Mitchell, Doris Day. But some new people were coming in. There was people like Elvis Presley and Bill Haley. Change was in the air with the music scene. And we're sitting across from a group of these young girls from France, talking amongst ourselves and just wishing that we could get a date with one of them, which uh, was a hope, I suppose. But mainly, we thought, no, there's not a chance. Although I said, yes, there is a chance. I said, why shouldn't we? No, no, you'll never get a date with them. I bet you I can, I said. So the bet was taken up. Now, I don't know what it would have been for. It wouldn't have been very much. We didn't have very much, right? Maybe a cup of coffee or 10 cigarettes. And when you think that 10 cigarettes in those days cost 1 and threepence. That was good ones. They had Metro, 10 for 10pence. They were about twice as thick as a matchstick. Anyway, I took the bet, and I went home, and I thought, how am I going to do it? They seemed unapproachable. I spoke to my sister Anne, because I knew Anne was a year older than me, and she went to a school where she was learning French. So I told her I'd like to learn some French words. Why? So I told her why, because what I was trying to do. Now, Anne was mercenary. What will you give me? I don't know. Probably half my pocket money or something. What do you want to know? I said, well, I want to say hello. She said, comment vous appelez-vous? Whoa, pardon? Comment vous appelez-vous? Now, I think that's what it was. Anyway, I got a piece of paper and a pencil, and I wrote it in English, just as it sounded. I said, yeah, that was all right. Now I said, I'd like to ask them if they'd like to go out with me. And she said, voulez-vous promenade avec moi? Sounded like that. That was a long time ago. I wrote that down. Right, I'm prepared, I thought. Oh, this will be all right. It's 2 or 3 days later, and again I'm sitting with mates in the ice cream parlour and listening to the jukebox, and there's a group of these young girls from France, table over the way. When one gets up and walks out of the ice cream parlour and sits at a table outside tables, my mate said, go on, there's your chance, get her alone. So, probably shaking like a leaf, but certainly very nervous, I went out, and I went up and, hello. Comment vous appelez-vous? And she told me her name. I don't remember what it was, but she told me her name, and I smiled. Voulez-vous promenade avec moi? She got up from the table, took my hand, and off we walked along the promenade, the esplanade, along the beachfront. Now, there's a little more to this story, but this is not the time to tell it. It's good enough for me to say that I won my bet.